right, so I had a whole speech, and none of it probably I'm going to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And that's the end of my speech. No, I'm kidding. So I'm going to start first by thanking Megan for coming out. And honestly, one of the reasons I want to be on the school board is to work with somebody like Megan even closer, because since I started working with her in 2011, it's been wonderful to be able to talk to her and have her really be listening and open to my ideas and working with the community. So I'm really excited to be able to work with you on a deeper level. It's been my honor. Thank you for your kind words. Okay, so it was a really hard process to get here, and I had a few people poking at me to run, and I really debated because I really felt like I needed to put my passions and my talent to where I could best serve the greatest number of people. And that's been my goal my whole life, is to find a way to put my passions and my talent to serve something and people bigger and beyond me and my family. And it was a really long process, and I want to thank all of you in this room and the ones who couldn't be here for pushing me and believing in me. That the number of calls and emails and messages I got, I was so humbled by your support. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for believing in me. I want to thank my campaign staff, which I actually have staff, which sounds really weird to even say my campaign staff, but I announced my run, and I had Al and Laura Kate and Jeff and 5 people say, we're in, let's go. You know, Kim and Sharon, so I want to thank them. And I especially want to thank my husband, because for the last, I don't know how long, a year, every time I come home from something, I'm like, I should run. He's like, you're not excited, don't do it. I should run, you're not excited, don't do it. And I came home the day I announced my announcement, Mike, I should run. He's like, you're excited, go do it. And he has tirelessly supported me, including giving up his entire week off to get all of this stuff together. So I want to thank you. But I wanted to start by telling you a little bit. I know a lot of you know me and you've seen me over the years, but I want to tell you honestly why I do this, why I've done the advocacy work that I do, why I'm on the boards helping kids with disabilities or people in our community, why I've been working on juvenile justice issues so we can reform our school to prison pipeline, why I think we need to have menstrual products in our schools so our girls, thank you Holly for championing that, right? So our girls don't lose school time. And I'll tell you, it started very personal for me, and some of you know this and some of you don't. I'm going to tell a very personal story that I don't tell in my other events, is my first husband passed away. And when he was in the hospital on life support, the one thing I promised him was that his kids would be okay. And that was a really difficult promise. My son was 5 and just been diagnosed with autism a couple years before, and I was told there was really no hope for this kid. And my daughter, who is a wonderful child, who, by the way, I should thank her because this is her birthday. So in some ways I feel like she's here. But she was 8, and she was suffering a trauma because she was the one who found my husband when he collapsed. And so the promise I made was one that I had no idea how I was going to keep. But I knew that was the promise I was going to keep. And 3 months later, when Jake was about to start kindergarten, and the school told me, our school is overcrowded, and so we cannot have the kids with autism in this school, and we're going to ship them out of their community, I said, that is not okay. That is not keeping that promise. And I fought with the schools, and I advocated, and I said, look, you all need to look at all of our kids with autism, as not just autism, but human beings that have social and emotional needs and need to belong. And they said, we never thought about that. And I said, well, let me help you fix it. And we fixed it by changing the process to make sure when they opened new programs, they would keep in mind where the community the kids were coming from to try to open a program, right? And 2 years later, when Jake was in 2nd grade, and I went to his back to school night, and there I was all excited to find his little desk and his name tag, and I wandered that room looking for his name, and do you know where I found it? In the back of the room, at a desk, with all of the other kids with autism and nobody else. And I said, this is not okay. And I realized that as wonderful as a system we have, and this is, I think, when you and I started talking, we don't do a good job of understanding inclusion and valuing kids as holistic human beings for everything they are and everything they bring, not just the deficits or perceived deficits. And I said, this is not okay. And I lobbied for inclusion. And I started an inclusion work group in Fairfax County. And one of the things that we just did is we revised the IEP forms. So our new IEP forms that are rolled out this year have a focus on inclusion. And that's something I did because it wasn't just for my son, because God knows he's fine, right? But there's a lot of other kids who needed that. And that's where I got my start. When my daughter, who was very bright in the advanced program, when she started having some of the trauma of finding her dad come back when she hit puberty, the first thing her advanced program told me was, well, if she's having some mental health issues, maybe she doesn't belong in this program. And I said, that's not okay. She's bright, she belongs just because she needs support. Why are we looking at our kids for what they can't do and basing their education based on what they can't do? Why aren't we starting with what they can do? Right? So we need, that's what I want to bring to the school board. I want to bring this knowledge, this deep depth of knowledge as a parent who's had kids in the system, who's seen these issues, who's then reached out and said, wait a second, this is not okay. This is not keeping my promise to my husband. This is not okay. How do I fix it for her? Oh, and by the way, how do I fix it for her and him? Because just because I fix it for her is not enough. We can't do that to our kids, right? And so I said, no, you're going to look at my daughter holistically and you're going to give her supports. And along the way, I said that to the school, and they're like, oh, what a brilliant idea. Let's look at what they can do. Right? I mean, the list goes on and on. Well, my son could be in the talent show because he has autism, and they said, well, why would we let a kid with autism try out for the talent show? They must not have any talent. They must not have any talent. And I said, that's not okay. Right? And along the way, I fought for our kids to be seen for what they can do. Along the way, when they told me a year ago, they said to me, and I have a picture of me holding a glass of scotch on Facebook saying, oh no, you know. When they told me a year ago that our diploma system in Virginia meant that kids were passing their grade level classes but couldn't pass the standardized test because of a disability, when they said those kids can't go to college and those kids can't get federal student aid, and I said, but wait a minute, my son's going to Berklee College of Music. What do you mean he can't get aid for that? I mean, that's not okay. And 9 months later, the Virginia Department of Education said, oh, you're right. And they released a new diploma option for kids with disabilities. Right? And I'll tell you, I did it because I found out about it because of Jake. But I did it because no child should be left behind because they can't demonstrate knowledge on a standardized test if they're passing their class. No child who has a talent should not be seen for that talent because they're not academically capable. Right? All of our children are holistic human beings. Our school system should be a holistic school system that values every skill, academic or not. So I'm running for school board because that's what I want to bring to the school board. An understanding of what our schools are doing and what they're not doing, taking the good programs, making sure they're implemented consistently across the county, making sure that our administrators have oversight, making sure that they know what to do and how to do it. And if they're not doing it, how do we as leaders of our county say, this school is doing it well. Let's learn from them, make a program, and make sure consistently across the county every other school does that well. Whether it's diplomas or including kids with disabilities or understanding mental health needs of our kids and not judging their mental health needs, right? Or here's another one. How about let's not have the largest school to prison pipeline in the entire nation? Right? Right? Let's make sure that our kids can be kids and learn how to be adults and not be criminalized for being kids. Right? So that's something that I worked on this summer, and I got the school system to change its understanding with our police officers in middle and high school. So our police officers now have better training, and they have their roles limited to severe issues and dangerous issues, not youth behavior. Right? I'm not going to stop here. right? I'm running because I have this breadth of knowledge from being a parent, from being an advocate. I have a breadth of skills. I'm a college professor, right? You want your kids ready for college? Let me tell you what they're missing, right? I know what they're missing, and I want to make sure our schools are teaching that, right? It's academics, but it's also the soft skills, right? How do I talk to you, right? How do I communicate with you? How do I get along with a diverse population? How do I collaborate? How do I think? We need to get back to some of those things in our school, not just high-stakes standardized testing. How do we actually teach those? And then how do we measure them to make sure we are teaching them? And if we're failing, how do we support those schools to make sure they're coming up to par? Right? I have that knowledge. I have those skills. I used to be a management consultant. I'm an HR expert. One of the biggest issues in our schools is the fact that our teachers, one, aren't paid what they deserve, but even beyond that, right? But to me, pay is a starting point. It's not the ending point, right? Let me tell you what I hear from the teachers, and I'll tell you why I hear this is because one of my goals over the years when my son had issues in schools was to not beat up on the teachers, because the teachers are doing their best. My goal was to say, what can I do at home to help you? And what can I do advocating in the schools to help you, right? I have a meeting with my kids' teachers every year, and I walk in the meeting, I say, all right, I know you don't know me, I'm not that parent, right? And here's a testimonial from last year's teachers that tell you so, right? And I don't want to be that school board member. I want to be that school board member who says our teachers are the ones on the ground doing this work. So how do we create an atmosphere that's collaborative, that's respectful, where teachers feel heard and valued, where they're not afraid to speak up? Because I hear all the time that our teachers are afraid to speak up. They're afraid to advocate for their kids. And no teacher should ever fear retaliation for advocating for the kids they're teaching. Ever. Right? Ever. So as an HR professional, I know how to do that. I know how to create a positive working environment where the teachers are supported, our administrators are supported, we collect best practices. Right, so that's why I'm running. Right, I have this passion for making the world better. And I'll tell you, it started when I was actually in high school. I know. I think this is how I got into Berkeley. I'm telling you, because I didn't have the grades, so I'm not sure how else I got in. But when I was in high school, our schools had overcrowding issues like we have here. And we had trailers, and we had to eat lunch out in the rain. And I'm like, this is not okay. And I tried to talk to the principal, and he's like, I don't know who you are, Miss 16-year-old, but I'm not talking to you. So before the internet and before Snapchat, I made flyers and I passed them around to the entire school. And you know what we did? We went to the beach. We walked out of our school because we were tired of eating lunch in the rain. I started this when I was 16. I do not like injustice, and I want to stop injustice. So I want to say thank you for helping me on the path to stopping injustice. Thank you for helping me find a place to make our schools strengths focused. Thank you for letting me use my experience and my advocacy and my passion to ensure that we provide a quality education for every kid, where every kid has the chance to develop what they are good at. Whether it's career and technical ed, whether it's arts, whether it's music, whether it's academics, we value all of it. We foster all of it, and we judge none of it. That's the school system I want. And hopefully Megan and I can make that happen. Thank you guys.